Hey everybody, it's Ys, known online as Wootini, here with another one of my Gay Gamer video podcasts. Starting with a quick movie review. Unfortunately, I was unable to return to the theaters to see Dark Phoenix again in 3D because, well, it's barely in theaters anymore as it is. It's still playing. Like, I checked the AMC app and it was like, okay, we're still playing it in a handful of theaters, but no 3D anymore. So, sorry. And I was like, well, I already saw it in 2D, and the whole point was to see it in 3D, to see if it improved it at all. So I said, never mind, and instead I went to see Toy Story 4 in 3D. And for a movie that didn't need to exist at all, it was better than it had any right to be. Because Toy Story 3 was such a beautiful, lovely ending. So to suddenly say, like, okay, now we're going to make a fourth one, and you're like, ugh. So I felt like, you know, it feels like a cash-in. But then the reviews were decent, and I was like, okay. So I thought I'd give it a shot, and it was thoroughly entertaining. Some really good 3D, too. But, like, it was charming, it had heart, it was funny. I even shed a little tear at the end. I was like, oh. Although not the actual end. That was like predictable. You saw it coming from the beginning, basically. So like once they set up the plot, you're like, okay, this is how it's going to end. I get it. So when that happened, it wasn't like a heartbreaking moment because you saw it coming. But there was a smaller character moment where this one character has their moment, and it was like, oh. So, I was surprised. It was good. If you like the Toy Story movies, then go see it, because it's surprisingly good for what should have been just a cash-in sequel. I also wanted to talk about Neon Genesis Evangelion, which is now on Netflix. I wore my shirt. I have not seen it in quite some time. Because back when it first came out, I was collecting it on the VHS tapes. I was going to Tower Video in Lower Manhattan and buying, every so often they would release a new tape, and I would go, and it was like 2 episodes per tape. It was horrible. Like, I had a wall of tapes. It was, like, ridiculous. But obviously, like, nobody watches VHS tapes anymore. And they put them out on DVD, but somehow I just never got around to buying them. And then they went out of print, and then they had like a new DVD that was like the special edition, but then that went out of print, and like I just kept missing it, you know? I think because they put it out as like a big set, and it was like super crazy expensive, and I was like, ugh. And by the time I finally was like, okay, I should get this, it was too late, and it was out of print, and they charged a lot of money for it now. So, it went and released on Netflix, and it's like, yay, I can finally watch it again, because I haven't seen it in years. I have seen the Rebuild movies that they have made, which are like a remix. It's the first one starts as the same plot, then the second one goes completely in another direction, and the third one is just like a whole new thing. So it's a completely different story, basically. I mean, there's still elements that are the same, but it's going off in a whole new direction that's just fascinating and wonderful. But those are taking a long time to release, too, because there's a 4th one coming, but it's not out yet. I think they're still working on it. I hope they're working on it. I'd like to see it. But the original series I haven't seen in quite some time. So I was excited to see it on Netflix, and I had heard all the rumblings on the internet, people complaining about this, that, and the other thing. And I have to say that having watched a couple of episodes so far, my only complaint is they couldn't get the rights to Fly Me to the Moon for the end credits. Which sucks. It doesn't feel right. Like, they put in like a tinkly piano piece, and I'm like, eh. Like, it just doesn't feel right. And weirdly enough, that's the change that irks me more than what everyone else is complaining about, which is the translation. And they're complaining like, oh, the translation is wrong, and they've changed this, that, and the other thing. And I read online, it is not Netflix that made these changes. Like, the studio released a new translation. So there's a new dub. I'm actually watching it in Japanese with the English subtitles. So I can't speak to the new English dub. Of course, I always watched the original subtitled as well, so I can't speak to the original dub either. So I couldn't compare the two if you asked me to anyway. So I'm watching it again in Japanese, so whatever. The subtitles are fine, although I noticed when I was watching episode 2, there was like this weird kind of like lag in the subtitles where somebody would start speaking and it would be like a second or two before the subtitle would pop up, which is worrisome. But I haven't really noticed like anything that seemed super weird in the subtitles that was a big change or anything. But I know everybody's complaining about later in the later in the series, there's like this super gay moment, and they've changed it so it's less gay. And I'm just like, okay, I mean, it's still there. I mean, I don't know, I haven't gotten to that yet, because like I said, I'm only a few episodes in, and that's towards the end, so I'll see how I feel when I actually get to that point. But, you know, everyone's got to complain about something. You can't just be happy that we can watch Evangelion again. You've got to complain about something. There's always something to complain about. As for gaming, I wanted to mention one thing that I didn't mention in the last episode when I was talking about all the E3 news. There was one thing that Ubisoft announced at their E3 presser that I was surprised and intrigued by, and it was immediately released too, because like the day they announced it at their press conference, I went to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey and it had updated to add in story content made by the players. You can basically go in, I haven't done it yet, because I mean I'm still playing the game, I'm still enjoying it. This is like add-on content for later after you've completed the game and you're just running around having fun. So I haven't explored doing it, but you can like create your own little mission where you can like set it up and send your, send people off to go do something and kill a certain number of things or whatever, and collect a certain number of things or whatever, and then you give them rewards, experience and money and whatever. The thing is I've seen a few as I've been wandering around. There was like, oh, there's one over there, but I haven't gone to do them because I don't know if they're any good, because they're player made. I'm like, eh. And I just want to play the actual story. Like, it's bad enough that there's a bajillion side quests you can get distracted by. I don't need, player made side quests distracting me on top of everything else that Ubisoft made. But I did read online about how some people are exploiting it by, like, basically you start your mission and then it immediately, like, finishes. You don't have to actually do anything, and it just gives you, like, 10 levels of experience. And apparently, like, Ubisoft is cracking down and deleting some of those and whatever, but I don't understand. Like, obviously, you give the players any kind of opportunity, they will cheat. They will take advantage of that, obviously. But I don't understand how it's supposed to work in a game like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where the game levels up with you. So if you're at level, 50, and you do one of these side quests and it makes you level 70, when you go off to play the game, everyone's going to be level 70 villains. So I don't see how that gives you an advantage. Unless there's enemies, like bosses or something, that don't level up with you, and that would give you an advantage over that. But as far as I can tell, I've been playing this for months, and the game is leveling up with me. Every time I go, everything's getting progressively harder with me. So I don't see how cheating like that is at all beneficial. But yeah, I've been playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey a lot. I did a bunch of the Olympic missions. You go to the Olympics. You have to deliver an athlete to the Olympics to win for Sparta, but things go awry. It was funny. And then you have to do it, which led to my favorite quest in the game so far, where Alexios has to go wrestling in a little loincloth. That was quite delightful. You fight a couple of matches, and then there's some other side stuff, and then you have to go back for like the grand finale match, which was extra special because Alexios is not only in his loincloth, but he's all oiled up. Points deducted, however, for not having an oiling up Alexios minigame. I know there's no touch screen, but still, come on. That would have been delightful. But the game's super fun, and I'm not having too much trouble with it, with knockwood. Having adjusted the levels ever since I fixed that, I've been doing just fine. I had a mission recently where I had a little trouble, but that was just because a mercenary found me. Like, I assassinated the guy, went to go for the second guy, but a mercenary came charging in, and they're super powerful, and I like to take care of them one-on-one. And then it turns out I didn't stake out the area enough, and there were like 3 or 4 more enemies that suddenly swarmed me, and I'm just like, whoa, this is more enemies than I wanted to, plus a mercenary who's super powerful, and then I died. So when I went back again, I scoped it out properly and made sure that there was no mercenary to interrupt. But that's what happens with these open world games, like random stuff happens and then you can get screwed. Or random stuff happens and it makes things super easy. Like I did a mission where I had to sneak into a fortress and get an item out of a chest, and later, after I did it, like I literally just in broad daylight just snuck across, snuck in, snuck out, no one saw me. Like, I did not even alert a single guard in this fortress. And as I was looking later, I was looking through a walkthrough, and I happened upon that mission, and they were like, this could be really difficult, wait until night, try to get in, try to only kill who you need to, and I'm just like, that was super easy for me. I just randomly lucked into everyone who was facing away. I'm also enjoying Ys VIII on my Switch. I will say that I've been playing it now for a few weeks. I did have a little trouble getting into it because I'm only playing it portably. So I'm only playing it for like anywhere from 10 to 20 to 30 minutes on the subway, going to or from work, or at lunch. So it's like these short little bursts. And in the beginning, it wasn't quite working because I wasn't getting into the story, and it was too short. So one night I came home from work and I had been playing it, and I'm just like, this isn't working. And I sat down and I plugged my Switch in to the dock, and I took out my Pro Controller and I played it for like an hour or so on my TV to like really get into the story and get everything going and really get into the gameplay and properly. And that really helped. So now I'm fine. And now my only problem is, and this is just me, I'm spoiled by the open world games. So you're shipwrecked on this island. You have to explore the island, gather survivors and fight monsters and whatever, and discover probably the secret to this island and what it's hiding, and then whatever. I haven't gotten to that yet, obviously. I'm still in the finding survivors mode. The problem is that obviously certain areas of the island it's gated. You need to have rescued a certain number of, you need 8 survivors rescued in order to move this rock slide. So then you can, once you've got 8 survivors, then you can move that rock slide and it opens up a new section, and you can go explore there where you'll find another new survivor or 2, and that will help you to unlock some other place where you can then go over there. Like I get that, that's fine. The problem with the world is that it isn't open. It's all in these tiny little sections. So when you're in a section of the island, each section is then split into tiny little areas. So you enter an area, there's a bunch of enemies, you fight your way through them, gather whatever, and then you get to the end. And some of them have different exits and entrances and whatever, so you can branch off and explore more. But that actually makes it more complicated because it's kind of linear, but then you can branch out, so it's not linear, and then I get super lost. Because it's all these little tiny areas. It's not a big area that you explore, and then it loads the next area. It loads these little tiny areas, which is great because it means that every time you go from one to the other, there's a little loading screen, but it's only like a second and a half long, and then you're there. It's fine. But the problem is like I got super confused and turned around, and the map is not helpful because it's all these twisty-turny things, and I'm just like trying to make sense of the local map with the world map, and I need to go in that direction, but then looking at the twisty-turny pathways, and which pathways do I take to get in that direction, and it's just like, oh my god, I'm so confused. So I find that super frustrating, and it's also difficult to like navigate because you can't navigate, like I have to rely on the map because I can't work like in game and say, oh well, I need to go to that tower over there and I'm gonna work my way in that direction, because it's all these winding pathways that you have to follow linearly. You can't just go that direction. So all the winding pathways are very confusing. Plus, if you realize you're going the wrong direction and you double back, every time you re-enter an area, all of the enemies have respawned, which is annoying when it's the small ones and you just have to fight or push your way through. Sometimes I just run through. If I know exactly where I'm going, I'll just rush through and try and just avoid them, because it's annoying to have to smite them again. But they're not that strong, so you can easily smite them. But then it's also annoying if it's an area that happens to have one of the larger enemies that does take a little bit of effort, and you're not just smiting it with 3 hits. You have to actually work to get it. So, super irritating. I am not a fan of that. The way the maps are and the way that the world is laid out into the little tiny sections. Not a fan. Spoiled by the open world stuff. But what are you going to do? Other than that, I'm enjoying the game. The characters are delightful. It's very charming. The script is fun. So, yay. There is no way in hell I'm probably going to be able to finish it by September when Dragon Quest comes out, but fingers crossed. Who knows? Maybe. I've got a nice long trip to Massachusetts for 4th of July weekend, so that'll help. I'll have a few hours to play it. So that's it for this week. Come back next time and I'll talk about some more stuff, and who knows? It'll be a surprise. Bye!